welcome to another episode of Millionaires. Managed to be a millionaire in all 6 aspects of health. Every week, we share tips to improve your physical, intellectual, social, financial, spiritual, and today, your mental health. We are focusing on how to improve your mental health and the topic of pride. Pride. If you have never seen Millionaires Are Made, this is the show built on the fundamental belief that every person you meet knows something you don't, and there's something to be learned from everyone in this big, beautiful world. We here at Millionaires Are Made are on a mission to teach the world how to grow into the healthiest, happiest millionaires in all 6 aspects of life. So what we did is we went out and got 3 awesome guests to give you 3 awesome tips to help you improve your mental health regarding pride, and in the spirit of authenticity to try to remove as much bias as possible. We don't talk about tips or advice backstage, so when they come on air and tell you live, that'll be the first time we hear the advice as well. Audience, if you are watching this is an interactive show. Please leave your comments, ask your questions. We do answer them and respond to them live on air, which is pretty cool and fun. Please keep your comments, PG, politically correct, etc., etc. And also, audience, this is a grow. I'm going to shout out some of our followers. This is one of my favorite times. Thank you so much for following us. If you want to be shouted out on our show, all you have to do is follow us on one of our socials. On Facebook, Annabella Adam. Instagram, Diane. TikTok, Madison. And on YouTube, Coach Brian. Thank you all so much for following us. If you want to be a guest on the show, it's pretty easy. We're dropping a link right now for you to apply. You can sign up there and see if it makes sense, and we would love to have you. We know that you have a piece of advice to share, and hopefully the world can grow from it. We also are always looking for new topics. We go over just about any and every topic in this planet. So if you have something that might be a struggle right now, maybe financially your credit's not good, maybe your car loan's behind, maybe spiritually you're lost and uncertain of what is going on in this crazy world, maybe mentally you feel depressed, etc., let us know your topic. We will go out and find 3 awesome guests to give 3 pieces of advice to hopefully get you through that hump in life. Whew. And if you like what we do, getting as much information out as possible and giving you tips every week, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, send stars, or whatever you need to do on whatever social media you're following us. We love it. And if you want a little bit more of a one-on-one intimate setting, I do offer free coaching. That link's being dropped right now. I'd love to sit one-on-one with you and hopefully help you grow and hopefully grow myself too. And last but not least is our merchandise. We have awesome shirts, hats, mugs, all that stuff. If you support the show, that link's being dropped right now. Just click buy. Without further ado, this show is brought to us by 4 amazing companies. First, we have Brian Wright. If you want to get your brand in front of high-level entrepreneurs and personal growth leaders, reach out to Brian at Ultimate Achievers Magazine. This guy is amazing at what he does. You definitely need to check him out if you are a solopreneur. Where industry icons meet content first audience, go check out his magazine. He does all sorts of publishing. He's pretty intelligent. I have checked him out, and I would if I were you. Next, this episode is brought to you by Veronica, life coach and host of the Thrive, Don't Survive podcast, who empowers others with emotional regulation tools. Wow, let me say that again. Emotional regulation tools, probably some of the most important things you can have in this world today, and helps transform challenges into thriving success. Go check out Veronica, evolverivero.com. Next up, we have Kim Groshek, who is a 2-time international best-selling author and speaker and helps CEOs maximize focus, energy, and health. With over 30 years of industry leadership experience, Kim is amazing. And our final sponsor for this episode is Francine. Francine is a veteran-turned-author inspiring families to explore mindfulness together. Her story and book sparks confidence, calm, and connection for kids and parents alike. Go connect with her to check out how to be calm, confident, and creative in your family. And without further ado, we are going to bring our first guest. Her name is Kate. Let's see what Kate has to share today. Kate, tell us, who are you?
Hello. It's fabulous to be back again. I am Kate Porter, the midlife metamorphosis coach and host of Midlife Unlimited, the podcast for Gen X up women who want more.
Fantastic. It's funny you said metamorphosis on our last. I'm going through an existential crisis, so now I have to go read that book.
Oh, a bit of Kafka, absolutely. The cockroach. Well, I'm not here to talk about cockroaches today, but
No,
pride,
of course
yeah,
not.
we
But
can do if you like. Pride is a subject that is very timely for me right now because I work with fabulous women, 40 plus, who have lost sight of who they are. And one of the big areas I'm working on at the moment is empty nesting and reevaluating who you are as a mum. Now, in my book, Your Empty Nesting Epiphany, I've devised a plan, PLAN, and guess what the P stands for? Be proud. Yeah. So that
okay,
is you wondered
all
where I was
right.
going then, didn't you? No, pride.
I
Now,
love it.
obviously, pride,
Uh,
I'm talking authentic pride, not hubristic. So this is the real, genuine pride that is so, and I don't know if it's just us midlife women, us Gen X girls, we don't pat ourselves on the back enough and go, yeah, blinking well
ooh, okay.
done. You've got this. And I say it really is a
All right,
time to be
Kate.
proud of what we've achieved in getting our kids to the stage where they are able to leave home.
Good morning, Lori. All right, Kate. I've got a very important question, and I think you're actually the perfect one to answer
Oh,
it right now. If I wanted to improve my mental health regarding pride, what tiny piece of advice would you
well,
give
this
me?
works. I've done it and I've worked with so many women advising them to do it. And men can do it too. You don't have to be an empty nester, but I call it a proud mum box. And it is a way of just getting a box or a jar and writing down things that you're blinking proud of, things that you've achieved, simple
Okay.
things. They don't have to be earth shattering. So when you're having moments of self doubt, your low self worth, and to be honest, pride and self worth go hand in hand because if you feel that you're not able to
Okay.
go, I'm proud of doing this, and it's something that really does deserve a pat on the back, um, it can often be fear of judgment and poor, low self-esteem that causes that. So yeah, get yourself a proud mum box, pack it full of little things, little memories, little motivational words, and then you've got it there to dip into.
I like that. So essentially, a collective of. So I mean, we could expand this to
No,
anyone. It doesn't just have to be
absolutely. And I
moms,
say it's
correct?
something that sprung to my mind because of the fact I'm working with empty nesters and that whole
Right.
journey. But no, it can apply to anyone. It's just a great way of physically having that instant access to a quick pick me up. And it's something that comes from you because it's about you. So it immediately improves how you feel about yourself. It gives your self esteem a boost. It just gives you that little pick me up.
I love it. Okay. And so yeah, I mean, anytime you're sad or whatever, you can go to your box. I mean, it's a collection of achievements,
Yeah.
like essentially, right? Or a collection of I guess I wouldn't say achievements because it could also just be things you did, like teaching your child to walk, or um, when your child made a good choice and helped someone else, all or
Yeah.
sorts of those little
And it's
things
the
that
things
aren't
we
really.
take for granted.
Yeah.
So often they're things that we overlook or
Okay.
we don't focus on. And it's just putting it in perspective and actually taking that step back and going, hang on a minute, that was rather great. That was. Um,
I like it. Kate, where on your life journey did you learn
well,
this
it's a
advice?
combination. Obviously, my own metamorphosis. My not so little boy is 23 now, but obviously when he went to university and through ladies that I've coached and on my podcast as well. Empty nesting is a topic that comes up. I get you can imagine again and again, me and my guests chatting about it, and dads as well. It affects.
I believe it. I believe it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next guest, and we'll bring you back out for the round
Thank
robin,
you.
Kate. Fantastic. Next up, we have Eve. Eve, tell me, who are you?
Hi, Austin. Hi, everybody. My name is Eve. I am a destiny cartographer, and I have my Instagram tagged here as Akumayase because that is my soul name. So I do soul work, helping people align themselves with their soul's journey. And yeah, so if anybody is in the space of either in between or trying to sharpen their leadership in any way, shape, or form, I'm able to identify those misalignments with them, not out of really instruction from other than what's true for them energetically. So
Fantastic. All right, Eve, I've got a question for you. If I wanted to improve my mental health regarding pride,
mhm.
what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
Well, what is pride? Pride is coherence made public, right? And it's really with you saying, this is my private truth lived out loud. And the advice that I could give to someone is um, not so far off of what Kate said, but really identifying what that is that you could be proud of. Because in a world where earlier on we're seen and recognized for our accomplishments for the things that we've done, and then as we get older and later in our lives, we start missing those things maybe sometimes in our environment. Maybe we might not feel just as seen as what we used to, or just as deeply felt as what we used to. But it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that coherence can exist um, without that. Coherence is you. It's how you create it. And so, what does it mean to have pride? It's to understand where, okay, I'm gonna show up as who I am internally, without not because I need recognition from others, but it's because this is my truth. And if someone can really just step into that and recognize what that is for them in every layer of their lives, whatever that may be, it may be a business, it may be stepping out into something bold, something different, maybe a life change that they're going through, and really doing that mental archive to saying, what is my truth? And not hiding it behind curtains, being feared of what other people might think, how other people might perceive your thoughts, how other people might perceive what you have to say. Because at the end of the day, most people are really just consciously aware of themselves, and it's not necessarily has anything to do with you. So, really just being true to who you are and not really caring to what everybody else has to say, and just showing up to that coherence, because coherence is the new currency. Like I posted on Facebook last night, I said, what if coherence was currency? We would be living in heaven. Oh, wait, it is the currency. And so, really embodying what that means, because we like heaven is a state of mind, and coherence is something that we choose. And it's something that we really should be choosing every day, because that is the way to unlock more experiences in the world.
Well said. Fantastic, Eve. Tell me this, where on your life journey did you learn this advice?
When I realized that I had a lot of internal misalignment from my heart and my mind because of outer world perceptions, and that's because of my existing conditioning. And once I started doing mental archive of what I was really walking with, the emotional baggage that I was walking with, and I started offloading them, I started seeing the mirrors through other people, because we essentially create the stories or the narratives through other people. And those are mirrors of us to see what we have to offload, what we have to unlearn for ourselves. And when I saw that, I saw the ugly truth of what I surrounded myself in, which is really the things that I was carrying, because I saw them in other people. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist if I didn't know that they were.
Right.
And when I saw that, I realized that's not what I want to be. That's not my truth. And that's really where the coherence started showing up. Whether or not I knew what that meant, I just knew that my heart and my mind needed to be aligned a lot more with everything that I did, with every way that I spoke, and every way that I showed up. So that not just like my surrounding could, you know, match that, but also the people around me could feel that, and they could start to feel those changes within themselves internally without my way of meddling into their life, but really just showing up. So I learned it because I felt a lot of resistance from other people because they only saw their own mirrors in my way of healing. And I knew that that was the right thing to do because we're supposed to be examples of what coherence look like. And so that's how I learned it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Eve. What a great experience. I can't wait to talk to you in the round robin. We're going to move on to Samantha, and then we'll bring you back out here in a second. Our next guest today is Samantha. Samantha, who are you?
I am a prophetic restoration healer here to help people not only restore their body, but their identity and purpose in life. I own Empowered by Nature Wellness Center. And one of the things that I'm really starting to step into is on this prophetic restoration healer journey is helping people discover their emotional baggage. And did you know that your emotional baggage actually shows up on your face as an emotional concussion?
I would believe that for sure.
Being a certified facial analysis master as one of my certificates, I can be able to see what's going on within the body just looking at the face. So that's an exciting thing.
Fantastic. Samantha, I have an important question for you. If I wanted to improve my mental health regarding pride, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
I would say don't let your pain, that pride, become your platform. Let your healing journey be your legacy. That's what I would give you.
Tell me more about that.
So this kind of stems from my own journey here is that I used to give my diagnosis a platform, saying I am anxiety, I am depression, and that's who I was claiming to be. I was giving those diagnoses, my pain, a platform. But as I've been healing, I've been taking back my own identity and stepping into my truth. And while, yes, I am still in the battlefield with anxiety around food, especially having multiple food allergies, I don't give it the platform to stand on. I am healing my body. And one day I will be fully healed of any disease that's going on in my body. And that is what I'm claiming.
I love it. Okay. How are you going to heal all your diseases?
Well, it's one of those taking one day at a time. Food is major, especially here in the United States, making sure that the food is as clean as possible. But it's really weeding your garden in your mind, taking all of the lies that man puts on you and reclaiming I am faith-based. And so a lot of mine is what God says of who I am and who he created me to be, because it says in the Bible that he knitted me and formed me in my mother's, or before I was in my mother's womb. So I am, he knows everything of who I am. I just gotta erase what the man has placed on me. And that's where a lot of the disease has come from.
Samantha, where on your life journey did you learn this advice?
It's been putting the pieces together, real honestly. But one of my mentors that I am with, he called me out for saying, hey, you're giving more fire to your disease than you're actually to healing. And you will be healed if you give the right speak into healing, speak life into yourself instead of basically giving myself a death sentence with owning to that disease.
Fantastic. What a story, Samantha. Are you ready to bring out the round robin and check everyone
Let's
out?
go.
All right, let's bring Kate back out. Bring Eve out. Audience, this is a great time to ask questions. We will answer them live. But before we get any of those, let's see. Kate, can you refresh what your tip was for us?
Mine was what I say. I called it a proud mum jar or box, but anyone can do this. It literally is a way of focusing on things that we just don't pat ourselves on the back enough for. And as I say, obviously, pride has got two different forms: the authentic form, which is real, genuine things that we can be proud of, and then obviously the hedonistic side of it as well, which can go down a much darker alleyway, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, it's just
Yeah,
finding whether I find writing things down very powerful as well, whether it leads to affirmations or just memories, so that we can dip in, it's there, and it just gives us that boost. And I say, in terms of self-worth and fear of judgment, which all go hand in hand with the whole idea of being proud, or feeling that we're not worth being, we've got nothing to be proud of, that we're a failure. It can really help us reframe these thoughts.
fascinating. Eve, what are your thoughts on her tip?
It's incredible. I think creating an archive of everything great that you've ever done is, it just amplifies that. It would be in the equivalent of being grateful and just being in that
Mhm.
vibration of saying, like, this is me, this is who I am, this is who I'm becoming, and just aligning yourself within that frequency of good, because
Mm,
that's the only way the rest can attract, right? So however that pride means for you, that's why even on the darkest alleyway of pride, it could still amplify even if it's dark, because it's does the it's we create the shades of dark. It's
mm,
us who do that. The universe does not know negative or positive, it just is. So we're the one who's creating the story. So the louder that you are in that pride, whatever that is that you're creating, that internal archive, whether it's through gratitude or not, it reaches into an equilibrium that will amplify into the ether, while you attract the same, in terms of energy being exerted out. So really being mindful of what is that you're being prideful for, because that is what you will attract. Like, especially what you're going to create in all that shades of gray in terms of
mm.
our rightful experience in life.
Yeah, and that's particularly important. I say, as I use the specific example of women I'm working with who are embarking on their empty nest journey now, and it's such a pivotal time of life. So to be able to get your head around what's happening, how your role's changing, how your children's needs and wants are changing, it just gives you the focus. It just gives you that grounding, as you said, the gratitude as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
Samantha, what are your thoughts on Kate's tip?
I think it is a really good idea. But being faith based, I also know that we should be looking towards God, and how is God perceiving us too. It just can't be all about us. We need to be able to love on one another and serve. So that's something that I've been really starting to um, do myself. But I do think that it is a good idea to write down the good times, and be able to look back and go, hey, this was an awesome time. For me, I actually photograph a lot of things. I've got
Yeah, that's
thousands of
another
photos.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes, you can have your piece of paper, but it disappears or it fades over time. But
Mm.
the pictures, as long as you have, we're so digital now, but as long as everything is external and you can be able to access them for years beyond your own life. So,
All right, let me ask this question. What is the difference between good pride and bad pride, if there is a difference?
I would say it would just be karmic at that point. And karma is both one or like it's either, it really depends on what how you're amplifying or affecting others in terms of it. But mostly, obviously, it usually comes from the heart of people saying, this is me and this is my truth, which is like that good karma that you're exerting. Um, but it really all translates to what is the internal narrative that we have that makes it true, because that is what's going to be amplified in the external environment.
Yeah, I agree, and I'd add that, to my mind, authentic pride sits hand in hand with a growth mindset, or as I call it, a metamorphosis mindset. So it's an opportunity to learn and to say, yes, this I can do better, or I can do better. This has opened up new opportunities, etc. Whereas the hubristic pride, which I searched it up, that is what the actual title that they use for negative pride, shall we say, is far more linked to arrogance and conceit, and actually blinkered belief, thinking that you're actually fantastic, when in reality, when you break it down, you may not be quite as wonderful as you think you are. So it can be down to big-headedness, shall we say, or boasting, idle boasts, when you're actually perhaps going on the coattails of someone else who's actually achieved something, but you're claiming the success from someone else.
Yeah, and to spin off of that too, like the word that keeps popping my head with negative pride is greed. And you become greedy, and this is who I am, when it's truly not who you are. And like Kate was saying, you're riding those coattails of somebody else and taking their story and their light, when you should be stepping into your own light and your own truth.
But
And
it
as you
shows, right? Sorry.
Yes.
And
I
I was just
wanted
going to
to
say,
add on.
in line with the faith idea as well, that if it brings that sense of superiority,
Yeah.
that can open up all sorts of things, doesn't it? Not only is it egotistical and arrogance, but by thinking, you start thinking you're better than other people,
Yeah.
and that in itself is
And
interesting.
unfortunately, I've seen that in a lot of churches where people are, oh, well, I'm holier than thou. And it's like, no, really, you're not.
Well,
You know,
what is the phrase? Pride comes before a fall, and
yeah.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah. I think like it shows, right? It's we're same to go back to what Samantha's saying, like God is the greatest judge of all. Like you can show something and say, I'm prideful of the things that I've done, but if internally you really don't have that coherence, it's going to show up in your external environment, in your happiness, meaning your relationship with other people, right? I actually wrote this yesterday where it's you'll feel it when people look at you and they feel ego, not happiness for you. Because it's like, what have you really done in terms of like showing up as your wholeness, or are you just showing the wins, right? And you're not really showing the journey, right?
Mm.
So I mean, it all can, and all of that. I'm not here to give tips to anybody on how they should show their work to anybody, but it's really just, what are you saying energetically in the external world, because that's what's being what like that's what's inside, that's how your narrative inside. And unless you have that coherence and like, how am I showing up in this world in a way that I'm supposed to show up authentically with coherence, then that's how people will perceive it. Where they won't look at your content as someone who's ego or someone who's reached like great heights with success with what you've done, but they'll feel the inspiration. Because I went through that too, where for a while I received like I achieved success in my life, and I felt like, why aren't people as supportive? Because I was doing that, but I felt that it's because I wasn't there in the process. I was just I really put my head down and I worked, and then I showed my successes, and I felt like a lot of people were left behind. And so a lot of that was internal work. It's like, why did I hide when I was working? I could have just shown it all. And so there was a lot of internal work of the progress. And now that I'm showing my progress as I'm going, I'm feeling a lot more people resonating in the journey, as opposed to just seeing whatever the top of the mountain that I've climbed.
And Eve, onto that, being in the holistic health myself, in that field, people are telling me, oh, well, you shouldn't be telling about my own health struggles, because I should only be telling when I'm healthy and, healed and all that stuff. But that doesn't resonate. That's not who everybody is. Everybody has this journey. We're on this health journey for a life. And so it's one of those, authenticity is very key to showing up as your true identity.
All right, let's do one more question before we wrap this up. Pride is one of the 7 deadly sins,
Mhm.
correct? How are we able to stay self-aware to make sure? Because I mean, being proud is also a positive thing, as we've discussed. How how can we self-aware that we keep our pride and our proudness positive and doesn't let it slip over into the negative? Who has tips for that?
Well, one thought that came to me when I was thinking about our topic today is when things don't go to plan, a lot of us are so fearful of failure. But then when you actually reframe that failure and look for, although it didn't go to plan, is there one thing within what happened that you could be proud of, that you can then use to develop yourself further? So you're turning something that can be potentially negative and have a potential negative impact. It might have been things that are outside of your power anyway, and you've tried to control things that you actually have no control over. But by trying to reframe something in that perceived failure or that mistake, or I call them missteps rather than mistake, that you can actually pivot and think, well, actually, I tried that and it may not have gone completely to plan, but I did blinking well in pushing through and actually getting something done. So I think that being proud in that way is a positive that will, again, like we were saying, growth mindset. It will keep you moving forward rather than thinking, right, I'm done now. I'm great just as I am. I don't need to do anything to improve on myself.
I
Anyone want to follow up on that?
I would say like what the word came to me was weight. So anything that would say like considerably negative, you really got to think about the weight behind that, because when you're making decisions from coherence, it shouldn't feel like weight. When you're making decisions on how to show up authentically online or your family or in anything that you do, there shouldn't be any weight, meaning you shouldn't be carrying ideas of the world, ideas of other people. And when you realize, when you if someone speaks or someone does something or make a decision, because we make a lot of decisions without offloading emotional weight, um, that's when distortion comes, and that's where negative pride really heads, because it usually has a lot of that emotional weight. And so I would say meditate, meditate and clear your mind, and do like that mental archive, like what Kate suggested. What is yours and what is not? What is true for you and what is not? Because that's your greatest superpower, is when you're not carrying anybody else's weight, but the life that you've completed on your own, that beautiful life that you were able to create on your own.
And to kind of cap
Well
this
said.
off, yes, that was very well said, Eve. Same with Kate, too. But I want to bring in the ego check. Where are you with your ego? Are you trying to be so prideful that you're egotistic and getting into this manic state of, you know, I got this is all I am? It's like, yeah, I've won awards, but honestly, I've ego checked it. I humbled myself. And while I won the awards, I'm not making this huge big deal out of it, um, just because I know that's not who God wants us to, or what God wants us to do. He wants us to honor Him. And if I make a big deal out of those awards, am I honoring those awards, those achievements, more than I'm honoring God? And so that's an ego check that I have to have a lot of times, um, you know, in my own Christian faith-based walk.
Yeah, I just want to add where it's like pride, we really got to ask ourselves, am I showing this for others' recognition, for others' approval, for others' confirmation for likes, or am I doing it because I'm actually mirroring the clarity that I have internally? Because if it's the latter, then go ahead, like scream at the top of the mountain of who you are and your truth. Um, but if it's the first one, that's really where you have to really question yourself. Then maybe I shouldn't be sharing this yet, and I should be recalibrating as to why I'm thinking this as opposed to sharing it or becoming this or showing up as this truth. And a lot of this is just internal narrative that we have to establish.
Yeah, I think as we've been saying, self-awareness and self-value and self-worth just play a huge part in this. So I think it's a really interesting reflection of the fact that we can say yes and pat ourselves on the back without being big-headed, without thinking, yes, we're enough now. That's done now. No, there's always room for more.
There's
Yes.
always room for more. Yeah.
Always room for more. All right, I think that's a good spot to move on to our next step. We need to come up with a daily challenge. This is a task or series of tasks that takes less than 5 minutes a day, costs $0, is available to anyone in the world that helps us improve our mental health with pride. What ideas do you guys have?
Well, I had the M People song going through my head. What have you done today to make you feel proud? But I thought again, I do like flipping things, to actually look in the mirror, and rather than asking what have I done today to make me feel proud, ask what have I not done today to make me feel proud? When have you said no? When have you actually stepped away from a toxic situation that was draining you and actually thought, no, let them judge me? And I've been saying that for years, long before the whole movement has resurged. Not worrying about comparing ourselves to other people, not worrying about fear of judgment, and actually saying, yeah, today I didn't do this, and I'm glad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
like
Thank you
that.
for that, Kate. I feel like I needed to hear that too.
Well, that's kind of
Anyone want
like
to build on
checking
that?
the ego, checking your ego. Where are you at? That whole reflecting back and seeing, what did I do today? What did I not do? What could I improve on? Taking time to kind of just journal, write what you're grateful for. That can take 2 minutes if you want. Journaling does not have to be a big thing. I think people are so scared to journal because they think that it's this huge, big thing. It can take anywhere from a minute to 2 hours, however long you want to journal, really.
I say that there's no right or wrong, is it? It's such a personal
Exactly.
thing that
Yeah.
with so many things in this wonderful life, rip up the
Yeah.
rule book and do it your way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All
Mm-hmm.
right, so we got to work on mental health pride. So journaling is a great way. So let's try to focus on the pride side. So when we're journaling, I mean, you can write this down. You can, I don't know, do whatever you want with it. But one of the big things we wanted to ask is what you did today that was good for you, and we can journal about that. Is that correct?
And what you did today, or what you didn't do today that you're
That's
proud of, where you actually decided, no, I'm not going to bow to something that doesn't serve me, a
when you made your
toxic.
own coffee and didn't go to Starbucks.
Yeah, no, even that, absolutely. But in terms of feeling pressure from pressure to conform, or people pleasing behavior, how many of us have
Okay.
been impacted by that? So actually to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Kate, do you think every day there is something that we should have said no to that we say yes to? Do you guys think that happens every day?
I
I don't
think
think about it much.
no,
Maybe.
Yeah.
as part of my own metamorphosis, it's something that I've worked so hard on.
That's
And
fascinating.
I don't do shoulds either. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we can dwell on regrets, and I don't think that's constructive at all.
All right, so then every day we will think of a situation you should have said no and how you may be able to rectify that. And I feel like now that I'm thinking about it, there's definitely times where I'll leave a situation and be like, man, I should have just said no. Why did I do that? And I don't know if it happens every day, but I think thinking about it every day might be a good way to help with that. All right. Any last thoughts before we wrap this show up?
Well, and
I just want,
like,
yeah.
oh, go ahead, Eve.
Yeah,
Lots of
I
last
just want to
thoughts.
add taking up space because I feel like that was channeled through me right now. Taking up space energetically and just really showing up as that person in the room. And I say this because just a small example, like I was in a cafe and it was busy and someone had butted me in line and for a second I felt small because I'm like, why can't I say something, why can't I say something? And but it's because energetically I felt like I didn't take up space when I came into the cafe. And I feel like there's that meaning to taking up space and being and just being aware, self-aware of who we are. And I think that comes with pride because it's like, yes, I am someone. I'm also here. I also have needs that I wanted to fulfill. That's why I'm here. And what does it mean to take up space into where you are and how you exist? Not loudly, but energetically. Because I think that could really start recalibrating some things for a lot of people if that could be a journal entry.
Yeah, I like that. And I
Love
think
that.
using authentic pride as a motivator rather than a reason to say, no, I'm done. I'm settling now. So using it as a
Excuse.
growth mechanism.
Yeah. The other last little tidbit that I have is, evaluate how is your energy feeling. Like if you said yes to something and you're feeling like you could go take a nap after you said yes to something and it wasn't like a physical thing that you had to do, you might want to say no to it next time. Because that was draining your energy instead of lifting your energy and your spirits. And so that's one of those that you gotta check yourself. Check where your mind is, check where your spirit's at, and journal and pray about it.
Awesome. All right, guys. I think that is amazing. We have an awesome daily challenge. Um, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to put you backstage and wrap it up. Uh, thank you so much for being here. And thank you, audience, so much for watching our episode on mental health and pride. Hopefully, you guys learned a lot about good pride, bad pride, and how to make sure you stay proud. We learned about the piggy bank of happiness from Kate, putting in your proud moments throughout your life. We have an awesome daily challenge. So it's essentially going to be a journal. It could be a live video journal. You could write it down. It's going to be up to you. But at the end of the day, or in the beginning of the day for the day before, ask yourself what you did that was good for you yesterday. Okay, did I do a good task? Did I do something that pushed me closer to my goals? And what is something that you did not do that you're proud of? And a lot of times people miss the saying no. One thing, if you, I just read an interview, Elon Musk's like ex-wife was like, he's so focused that he says no 10 times more than he says yes to all sorts of things that could distract him from his goals. So maybe you said no to something and that was actually in the end a benefit to you to go achieve your goals. So think of a situation you should have said no, and maybe you did cave, maybe you people please. It happens all the time to everyone. And maybe how you could rectify that in the future. Maybe you, I don't know. There's so many of them. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there's situations where something happens and you should have kind of held your ground, and maybe someone cut you in line at coffee, etc., etc. And then another thing to think about is the energetic space you take up and show it to the world. Make sure that everyone energetically can feel your presence and you don't feel small. Whew, that's a fun challenge. All right, enjoy. Thank you so much